The French military was so bad at World War II that the only definitive battle that they won is massacring a bunch of 500 unarmed Africans in Senegal. Welcome to Tunacheki's Africa Secret Files. I am your host, The Blank, and this is the show where we cover secret files concerning Africa that the West are trying to cover up for their own good or to further suppress Africa. Thank you for joining us on our second episode. Before we continue, remember to like, subscribe, and share this video with friends and family. In today's video, we will cover this tragic incident that happened in 1944, where France massacred almost 500 of its Senegalese soldiers fighting to defeat the Nazis just for asking to be paid. So these files were made available because of a dedicated French historian who uncovered all these secret files that France was trying to hide them. But because of his good research, we found them. So let's get into today's video. So let's go through the files and see what actually happened to these African soldiers fighting the Nazis for France. In 1944, an estimated 400 to 600 Thiaroye Senegalese troops fighting for France in World War II were murdered at a military camp by the cowardly French military, just outside Dakar in Senegal, only for asking to be paid for their wages. These were soldiers who fought, died, and got imprisoned for years by the psychopathic Nazis, just for France to only gun them down using military-grade, heavy ordnance weapons like tanks, car-mounted machine guns, just for asking to be paid for what they agreed upon starting the fight. So can you imagine, the French military was so bad at World War II that they involved the whole world to try to get rid of the Nazis, the Americans, the British, like everybody fought for France except the French, right, technically. So they had an agreement with these Senegalese soldiers. They were very dedicated soldiers. They got imprisoned, they got tortured by the Nazis, they got murdered, they were put in concentration camps. So after they were free, instead of France rewarding them and taking them back home, they shot them down. They put them in a military camp, disarmed them, surrounded them with tanks and heavy military weapons, right? Like gun-mounted machine guns, and shot at them, right? All for just wanting to be paid for what they agreed, right? You know, if you join the military, it's usually not for free. You're supposed to support your family, you're supposed to get a salary. Everybody in the military gets a salary, regardless of what. But the French military decided, no, these Africans do not deserve to be paid for all the efforts they've done, all the suffering, all the death they've endured, the fighting to liberate France, and still did not feel right to reward these people who have been fighting for a country that's not theirs. Let's continue. This cowardly act by the French military was covered up with false narrative that these victims had mutineered. But thanks to a large part of the tireless work of a French historian called Mr. Mabon, who has poured all over the secret French archival files to reveal the truth, right? So the French military, the French government has tried for decades, since 1944, to cover up what actually happened to these soldiers, claiming that they had mutineered, they violently asked for their wages. Like all those you'll see as we continue were completely false and fabricated. Okay, so let's see. What did the French actually do after this massacre? So let's start. Number one, the French falsely claimed that the victims received good treatment from the Nazis while in prison, and they were spoiled, and they were too needy or too aggressive in wanting what they belonged to them. So that's they killed them. That was the actual excuse. Number two, they labeled the massacre as a mutiny, and 34 of the Senegalese soldiers who were accused to be instigators were tried and sentenced to prison. So just imagine, between 400 to 600 of your brothers at arms have been gunned down by somebody supposed to be your ally. And then in return, 34 of you are tried in court for a crime that you've not committed and sentenced to jail, right? Can you imagine the audacity, how evil you have to be to do this kind of things? Okay. And number three, they hid evidence of the massacre, and by changing the number of victims from the actual number of between 400 to 600 victims to only 34. So the official military document at that time said only 34 were killed. I don't know, 12 were injured. But think about it. How can you shoot at a group of people, of like 1,000 people, with tanks, with heavy artillery weapons, and just expect that only 34 people died? No. The historian claims between 400 to 600 Africans died that day. Number four, they refused to pay the family of the fallen soldiers veterans' pension usually granted to the widows of the fallen soldiers, right? So after all those people were killed, the French military, French government didn't compensate the families of those people. So they actually achieved their goal. They didn't want to pay these people. They were a nuisance to them. So they got rid of them and they didn't pay anybody. So let's go to number five. The French banned movies, plays, literature about the massacre in France. So mentions of this massacre was banned for decades. Plays, articles, news articles, programming, documentaries. It was all banned in France. Like, just deny that you're a bunch of massacring cowards. Number six, still to this day, they refuse to release all the files of everything that happened that day, all the events of everything that happened that day, the culprits, the people who are responsible. Here, there's also an American tank involved, right? So, it goes to show maybe this thing goes deeper. And they have not admitted guilt, still insisting that it was a mutiny, and all they did is quell the mutiny, right? Unarmed people just wanting their money, you call a mutiny, and you murder all of them. So let's get this clear. This is the truth of what happened, right? According to the archives and what was uncovered. The truth is that there's no evidence that there was any armed mutiny, right? That's for a fact. There was no armed mutiny. There is a record of the Thiaroye expressing their anger in no uncertain terms, and it was not violent or even a protest, but just people wanting to be paid for helping defeat the Nazis, right? So just people coming together saying, hey, it's time to pay us. We've reached our country. We've really suffered in that European country of years of you murdering each other. And what you get in return? Being murdered, not by bullets, by heavy artillery and tanks, right? Being put together and just cut the hell down. So that's what you get for helping France. So what can we do about this revelation? I'm sure most of you, this is the first time you are hearing about these events, right? But it's been in the limelight for a while, especially in Senegal. And number one, you can do by watching this movie. You can do by watching this movie. You can do by watching this movie by Senegalese author and filmmaker Ousmane Sembène. It's called Camp de Thiaroye. It's from 1988, where it chronicles what happened. So this movie in France, it's termed as fiction, but for us, it's just like a reenactment of what happened. Please make sure to watch this movie. We'll put the link in the descriptions below of how you can learn about it, because education is elevation, right? Know what happened in this world, right? Don't think that the World War II was between the Western Allies fighting the Nazis for freedom. No, there was nothing like that. They were just fighting for power. It was not good against evil. It was just evil against evil. Simple as that. So what else can you do? You can talk about this massacre like the way everybody talks about French football. It can be like a thing, hey, how are you? How's your day? Do you remember the way the cowardly French military massacred Africans just because they couldn't pay them for fighting the Nazis for them, right? Let's just talk about these things. Let's shame them, right? Let's shame French people into knowing where they come from. And this goes to our third step. So like our third thing that you can do is that let the French people know of these things, right? Let the French people know that these things happened because of the government. The government perpetrated war crimes, crimes against humanity. Let French people pressure their governments into opening these files up, admitting what they did, paying justice, paying the families, bereaved families of these people they massacred. It is very important for French people to actually tell the governments, because if the French people don't care, the governments don't care, right? So shame the French people into doing the right thing. So number three, and also just know the fact that the French and the Nazis were the same people who just hated, pillaged, massacred different groups of people at the same time, right? Don't go into this World War II narrative like these Hollywood movies, Saving Private Ryan, where the European, the Americans, the French, the British are the good guys, right? Then the Nazis are the bad guys. This is the real matter of the truth. Everybody during World War II, the Allies, the Axis, were evil people, right? So when evil people fight and like one evil person wins over the other one, it's still a loss to the rest of the world, right? So this goes to show, don't believe everything you see on TV. Don't believe all these Hollywood movies. It was just evil people fighting evil people, right? Evil people killing Jews, murdering Jews. Evil people killing Africans, murdering Africans. Evil people stealing from Jews, exploiting the Jews, torturing the Jews. Evil people stealing from Africans, torturing the Africans, murdering the Africans. Same people, right? It's just the same people fighting for different things or hitting different people, right? So never be put in the false narrative that World War II was, to free the world. No, we are still not free. And with that said, thank you for joining us on our second episode of Africa Secret Files. Please let us know if you like this series, and you can give us guesses or ideas of what will be our third episode. It will be more juicy than the first one and even this one. So please stay tuned, and we really appreciate you guys for watching Tunacheki. We couldn't do this without you. Thank you for the super thanks you guys give us. They're really a great surprise. And with that said, this has been The Blank from Tunacheki. And remember, Africa is watching.